AskReddit by Anfla56. When you're lying in bed at night, do you ever randomly remember some relatively minor social missteps or poorly chosen words you said years earlier? And then beat yourself up over it even though it really wasn't a big deal? If so, what happened? I went to Dairy Queen with my daughter. She brought along her kitten. The cute girl at the walk-up window asked my daughter what the kitten's name was. Princess was the response. Smiling and feebly attempting to make conversation, I said today to indicate that my daughter changed the cat's name frequently. I got a dirty look and the girl left the window to go make whatever cold treat we had ordered. It wasn't until later, on the walk home, that I realized that she thought I was telling her to hurry the hell up and make my order. Still haunts me years later for some reason. Sometimes I'm on the other side where I misunderstand something and give the person a dirty look only to realize what they really meant later and then feel mortified. When I walked down the aisle at my wedding, I was so nervous and focused on not tripping that I did not acknowledge my dad. I didn't realize this until I saw the video my aunt had made for me. You can see my dad lean in to give me a kiss on the cheek, but I just keep walking. He kind of shrugs and then goes to sit down. It's been 18 years and this still flashes through my head when I'm trying to fall asleep. Also, that time I was trying to get to the school bus and the sidewalk was icy, so I slipped and fell really hard on my butt. The kids on the bus laughed at me, so I chose to sit there with my head down, wishing I could disappear, while the bus drove away and I walked a mile home, yes, in the snow, uphill, both ways. Yeah, my dad and I both forgot to hug each other. We did it during the rehearsal and everything, but the day of I think we were both trying not to trip, so we forgot. He felt worse about it than I did. 4th grade classroom, we were having a face-off between students on who could name the capital of whichever state our teacher named. I had been on a roll getting a few correct in a row. Then the teacher says Kentucky. With all of the enthusiasm and seriousness in the world, I screamed Frankfurt. Everyone was dying laughing except for me, at the time. Looking back, it cracks me up that I was so upset about it. You were pretty much right. I was in the 4th grade and it was Valentine's Day. I was the new kid in school and this one boy had been picking on me all year. My 10-year-old self was very non-confrontational, so I wrote a paragraph on the back of his Nerd's Valentine explaining that I don't like it when he's mean to me, and I don't understand why he has to be. He couldn't read my handwriting and brought it to the teacher, who made me read it aloud to both of them. I think about that day every day of my life. He even ended up finding me online and contacting me to apologize a few years ago, but all I can think of is the cringe. That's actually pretty nice of him to apologize years later. Doesn't change anything, but it is good that he changed. And plus, like you Cowfeeder said, I think it was pretty brave of you to do that. I was visiting Portland for a wedding that lined up with my birthday as well. We went out to celebrate and finish the night at a karaoke bar. Realizing I'm too drunk to sing, I pick My Name Is by Eminem as my song to perform. There's 2 versions of that song. One is the original release, the other tamed down, which you most commonly hear today. The woman controlling the music put on the original, and off I went. One of the lines at the end is running over lesbians in a spaceship while they screaming at me, "Let's just be friends." I finish the song and I'm met by applause from my friends and one other table. The rest of the place is silent. The DJ goes, "Nice job." Don't know if it was the best choice for gay women's night though, and at that moment I wanted to leave my skin. This is very painful. In 7th grade, a cute girl asked me to sit next to her. I said my mom won't let me sit next to girls. My mom said no such thing. If you said cute girls you'd have been a total baller. So close. I was visiting my cousin about 4 months ago and we didn't have the same greeting handshake. So it was like that really weird thing with your hands where you end up in some super awkward handshake. Last night I thought about this like 20 minutes and blamed myself. SMH, that was super unnecessary. Handshake anxiety is real and I dread it. Junior prom, I blurted out during dinner to my date, I'm so bored, and I have no idea why it came out of my mouth. I'm pretty well mannered and quiet. I forget how I tried to play it off, but I felt so bad. I was sitting in a small group of friends in school, and my crush, literally the love of my life at that point, admitted she liked me. It was the happiest moment of my entire life. So naturally I said you. In front of everyone. This was 2nd grade and I still think about it weekly. Was talking with a black friend of mine, and we were discussing random haircuts and styles we would get if we were other races. I said I wanted that common look. He thought I said that common look. I meant the rapper. Shaved head with a nice trimmed up goatee. It didn't dawn on me until a week later why he gave me that weird look after I said it. He thought I was saying that common look every black guy has. Still makes me twitch every once in a while. You could bring it up to him later? Maybe discuss haircuts again, and bring up the common look, and this time mention along with it something like, yeah dude, common style is so great. I made a presentation in my public speaking class in college about how antidepressants were bad and you should seek other methods of treating depression. This was dumb for a few reasons. 1. I just had a bad experience with antidepressants in high school but apparently could only see my own perspective. 2. It was just a class to teach public speaking methods and I did not need to pick such a heavy topic. 3. Somehow I was so self-absorbed I could not register the weird looks I was getting from people, and when a classmate said well that was ballsy to me after class I did not understand. 4. I was a psychology major and I should know better, and I do now. Anyway, that one stabs at me. I also made a presentation in my sociology class while semi-high which was supposed to be about myself and my relationship to society, and I included a bunch of weird modeling pictures and stuff about my eclectic music taste. Oh, I'm so special, I like Missy Elliott and Tom Waits. Is that what this is about? Anyway, I am going to bury my own head now. Deleted. When I was in 5th grade, our teacher said a joke in front of the class and everyone laughed, including myself. After the laughter died down, a girl looked up at me and said, "You have a really damn disgusting laugh, you." I became so self-conscious about laughter since that specific day, and after years I have trouble actually laughing. My brain kinda made it a habit to just smile or slightly chuckle at something, even if it is really funny. Edit. The girl's last name, when translated from my native language to English, is Cock. Have a nice day. Just spelt it out. Fuck that bitch. Freshman year of high school. It was one of those days before school starts and you meet your teacher and your parents are there. My teacher was handing me a piece of paper and I didn't see the paper, so I shook his hand. He said oh, and my mom said and I panicked and said I just wanted to be polite. So I still want to die when I think of that. Somehow I feel your pain. I went through a phase where I scolded people for reading Harry Potter because my parents told me it was evil. Lots of awkward situations because of that. Deleted. Deleted. If not for them, do it for someone else. There's gotta be families in need where you live, and I don't mean literally buy someone a remote control car. Last year I saw a 4-year-old kid with his father, and the kid wants to go to X place but the father wants to go home. So the kid was crying and slowly running to X place and the father was calling him to return now. And me said to the father, if you want I'll go get him for you, and there was a woman laughing at that, and the father with a WTF face said no, thanks. LMAO. It happens. One time this old ass lady was chasing her granddaughter and looked at my dad for help and my dad just put his hands up by his shoulders. He wasn't getting involved. In primary school, this girl really looked like my friend from the back. I went up to her, tapped her on the shoulder and said hi, then played it off like I didn't just mistake her for someone else and left. That was probably 23 years ago now. The first time I met my ex's family, I went up and started rubbing his cousin's back thinking it was my ex. He just said wrong dude and backed away silently. When I was 6, my teacher asked us what's our parents' occupation. I said my mum does the dishes, and after 5 minutes of explaining what she does at home, my teacher just took it as my mum is a housewife. My mum is a chemistry teacher, and I told her that I said that when I was 12. You really can't blame me. I didn't really think about where my mum went during her work hours. I just knew she went somewhere, and just kept playing with my toy cars which I stole from my brother. 6-year-olds say weird shit. I doubt your mom or your teacher ever thought anything of it. In 8th grade I farted once, and a few minutes later, someone smelled it and asked who did it. They asked if it was me and I just started crying. I used to be very sensitive and so I thought they were accusing me and felt really bad, so I cried. It's partially because of that I am now much less emotional, and tend to keep my emotions bottled up. Edit. Clarified that I bottle up my emotions. I know this isn't funny for you, but this made me laugh out loud to make you feel better. Whoever asked you probably doesn't remember, they're too busy obsessing over their awkward embarrassing moments. A couple of years ago I was at the drive-up window at my bank. When the transaction was finished, I started to raise my hand to wave goodbye to the teller, but instead of waving, I started to flip him off. It happened completely subconsciously. I don't think I was able to stop it in time because he had a shocked look on his face. I eventually apologized, but I still feel horrible shame over it. Every time I see him the shame comes back. Plus now I have a crush on him. At least you apologized. Would have been a lot weirder if you didn't, lol. I was around 15 and having a complete breakdown of all aspects of life. My mother had died suddenly, I hadn't treated mental illness and was self-harming a lot for years and no one was listening. My dad was understandably a wreck, and school fell to the wayside. I was barely going and intending on dropping out. I couldn't do anything, let alone at all. There was a high school dance. I was desperate to have some fun and pretty much have this be the highlight before I left. Though I failed at communicating this. I really wanted a friend to dance with me and our other friends. She was awkwardly sitting alone. I pushed her too hard and made her cry. I couldn't see through my own shit to see how bad of a position I put her in. All I could see was my world collapsing. We never spoke again. She went from my best friend to nothing in one night. That was 15 years ago and I still feel awful. Hindsight is always 20/20 as they say. Hey, I would love to hear how you're doing now. Hopefully a lot better. That sounds like such a dark time to go through, and so young. I'm sorry. I had some mean girl moments growing up that I deeply regret as an adult. My weed guy came over to my apartment and tried to give me a handshake that involved a fist pound and other not so complicated gestures. I totally fumbled it and he said, "Oh man, just hold up and let's try that again." So we tried again and I fumbled again. He just sighed, sold me some weed, and left. I've never felt so white. I ended up getting a new weed guy because I was so embarrassed. I, without fail, always mess up simple handshakes like that. I watch in terror as something their hand approaches mine in a fist. What are they gonna do next? I usually just give them a normal handshake and make the experience terrible for both of us, because I'm the worst. I often lie in bed thinking about an obnoxious thing from grade 9 I wrote in someone's school yearbook. I'm 38 years old. I had one of those too. In the 8th grade I wrote something mean in a girl's yearbook along with, "Just kidding," at the end, which I thought made it a joke. Apparently it hurt the girl's feelings and her parents called my parents about it. I hadn't thought about it in years though, until reading your comment. Thanks. I was 8 and I was at church in the kids service and they always picked a kid to participate and they'd usually get a prize after. That day they chose by asking us why we should get to go up, and I literally said my aunt works here so I deserve it. I was an entitled little shit. Every time I remember it I die a little inside. I was discussing a recent surgery I had at work to a bunch of people, including a lady with spina bifida who lives in a wheelchair. I specifically was talking about how annoyed I was by not being able to walk for 3 weeks. I revisit that one outlet. When I was 12, me and my mate found our favorite English teacher's Facebook account and found out that he was a pretty big alcoholic. My mate told everyone about this and we both got detention the whole week because of it. The worst thing wasn't the detention, it was the fact that the teacher no longer liked us and he put less effort in his class, making us mostly do bookwork. What was he putting on Facebook that made it obvious he was a pretty big alcoholic? That seems like quite the judgment to make, and one would think a teacher would be smarter about what they post online. In year 1 or 2, I had a bigger vocab than most of the other kids, and I just discovered the word feline. We were, I think, talking about what it'd be like to transform into animals, and I wanted to say that it'd be cool to turn into a feline, because I loved cats. What came out was I really want to turn into a female. Why not both? Cat Gerald time. I had a crush on this one girl all throughout elementary school. I'm talking the only girl I liked and always wanted to be with her. Well, once I got into 6th grade I decided to make my move. My bright idea, I'm cringing at the thought of it, was to just randomly email her via our school emails. Just random stuff out of the ordinary. I ducking hate myself. Even worse, I never really talked to her before and still am kinda, an introvert. Oh, and one more thing. Her brother, younger, found out and told me she was with a guy. I thanked him and cried for hours when I got home. And that's the story about how I became socially awkward. Don't worry, I did the same thing at that age. I had to sit next to him at the computers. He got really creeped out when he checked his email and had a huge laugh with his friends. I have ADHD and this is basically my life. If I had $1 for every time I ran my mouth before my brain thought better of it, I wouldn't need to work anymore. And nighttime brain loves to dwell on each and every one. Oh gosh, this comment is too relatable. Shit just flies out of my mouth and sometimes I even have the nerve to look surprised at what I just said. Went swimming with a group of friends as a kid to the local pool. Probably 11. Girl in the friend group jumped on my back while I was underwater. She was just being playful. It freaked me out because I was coming up and already short of breath. But I played the foff trying to be cool. An hour later I was describing what happened to my other friend and explained, and then I felt this big fat weight on me and I couldn't breathe. I didn't realize the girl was behind me. She burst into tears, and she ran home crying. I have never felt so small. I remember that moment and still feel terrible 20 years later. I learned in that moment that it's important to choose my words. Because I wanted to describe how I felt being underwater and scared, but I didn't have a developed way to articulate it. Because I used those words, she became the object of the story. It became about her fatness, then about. I've always been overweight. My whole life, even as a little kid. Never really got made fun of for it though. This is the first, and probably the only time I got made fun of for it, to my face anyway. I was in 7th grade, and I was in a small classroom of about 8 people. This very thin girl held up her arm and made a comment about her arm fat. There was clearly nothing there, her arm was a thin twig. I just kind of rolled my eyes in my mind. The teacher, a man around 35, told her, "You're not fat. Girls always think they're fat," something like that. He points around the class to each person repeating, "You're not fat, you're not fat, you're not fat," to everyone. He saved me for last, pointed at me, and didn't say anything. A couple people in class chuckled. Extremely inappropriate thing for the teacher to do, and I've never forgotten it. Bro, the teacher for sure lies awake nights cringing over this. In 7th grade some girl was wearing a Gooner shirt. I had no idea what it was, but it looked like a punk band or something, and she was preppy, so my emo ass tried to act offended and said, "Do you even listen to the Gooners?" LMAO, this would be a great bit if you ever have a comedy special. I was raised very religious and my grandparents are very good people, but they occasionally make a comment about racial stereotypes. When I was in 2nd grade I heard my grandpa say something about Indian people not driving well and I didn't question it. Being the edgy kid I was, I wanted to sound cool or something and repeat it. I did so by loudly answering a teacher's question in Sunday school with something containing the words "Asian people can't drive." Immediately after, I accidentally made eye contact with the Asian girl in my class, who was one of the kindest, sweetest people I've ever met. Even not realizing the gravity of my statement, I still saw the look on her face and felt awful. So yeah, that keeps me up a lot. 8th grade advanced math teacher has us fill out a get to know you sheet the first day of school. Asked what our pet peeve was. I didn't know what pet peeve meant, so I put cats, as I love cats. Her room was decorated with kitten posters and she was a huge cat lady. She never liked me. My pet peeve is when people decide that they dislike me as a person because my interests aren't a carbon copy of their interests. Last year a friend invited me over for a night of casual sex. She noticed how shy I was and really put forth a ton of effort to make me comfortable. I was super nervous and couldn't maintain an erection. She was so sweet about it, but it fucking haunts me daily. Man, I should make new friends. This is why I can't sleep till the sun comes up. That and Reddit, of course. When I was about 8, for some reason I thought that the word virgin was bad, so when my stepbrother, at the time, started calling me names, I thought it would be a good idea to fire back with, "Well, at least I'm not a virgin," and my dad's eyes got really wide, and he quickly explained to me what I had just said. 11 years later I am still embarrassed. I was in like 9th or 10th grade I think, and I was making out with this girl in my basement, and all of a sudden I think it's a good idea to whisper in her ear. Blow me in the weirdest and softest voice. It somehow makes it worse typing it out. I always physically cringe when I remember I told my crush in 9th grade I liked her cause I thought she liked me too, but after some reflection I realized it was basic kindness. During my high school years I never ate breakfast because I just wanted to sleep in that little bit more before heading to school. One day in year 7 morning Spanish class, our lovely Spanish teacher was handing out chocolate digestives for every right answer we give. I got one right and got my deserved reward. The next person next to me also got the answer right, but they didn't want the reward, so she asked if anyone wanted to have the biscuit instead, so of course I instinctively put my hand up. Voila. I got a second basket, but what haunts me is how I ate that second heavenly snack. As she handed me the biscuit I was still going through the first biscuit and IDKY, but as I received that second treat I just made a tiny coin-like slit with my mouth and inserted that biscuit like you would when inserting a coin to play in the arcade. I cannot forget the looks everyone in the class gave me as they tried to compute WTF just happened. I guess I played myself : Back in elementary school, when it was time to go, all the kids would be lined up by the entrance and wait for their parents. Well, I saw my dad's car and went full speed running to it, jumped in, buckled up, ready to go. I look up, and that is not my dad. I had just jumped into the van of someone else's parent and I unbuckled and hurried back to the group trying to hide in shame. I'm 21 now, so this was about 11-12 years ago. I saw a cute girl and thought I'd ask her out. I just asked her if she wanna go out for a coffee with me. She said she was not interested. Instead of saying something clever to save my face, I blurted out, "Please." I'll rue that moment forever. I was contemplating on how to talk to this girl I like so much. We are in the same neighborhood. One day we were gonna walk past each other and she smiled at me, and I looked away and continued walking. Goddamn, she caught me off guard. That was a year ago. Now whenever I see her, I just pretend to have weak eyesight that I didn't see her smile at me. Where's the time machine when you need it? Between sophomore and junior year in high school I went on a summer study program. I was an awkward teen. Who wasn't? But I thought at the time I was the only awkward one of the bunch. There was a competition I wanted to sing in it. I can't sing. I chose a song to sing that was a classic, but the version they put on was a remix. I couldn't keep the timing or anything. So on stage I made a signal to cut the music and walked off stage after performing poorly in the middle of the song. Now that's a lot of damage. There are so many I can come up with. I'm not a good handshaker, and I detest hugs and kisses. Social events are a goddamn minefield for me. And X200B. One that sticks in my mind was I was at a friend's wedding and ran into another friend's mother. She leans in for the awkward "I haven't seen you in a while" cheek touch fake kiss thing, and I didn't know what to do with my hand. I accidentally put it on her hip during this encounter. Which probably was nothing. I'm sure it was nothing. I'm sure she knows that if it was creepy it wasn't intentional. I'm sure of that. Totally. Not creepy. She knows I'm awkward and not a creep. She does. I'm not creepy. She doesn't think I'm a creep and totally hasn't told her daughter, my ex-GF, that I'm a creep. In a comics convention, I met a cartoonist I really like and said my favorite thing by him was, insert title from another author with the same theme. He corrected me and said that this was by another guy I also really like. The worst part was me asking him if he was sure. It's his goddamn comic, more on me. I constantly think about the woman at Men's Warehouse that I told was my birthday when I went to go pick up my suit she helped me pick out. When I said it was my 21st birthday, she said if I wasn't working right now, I'd totally buy you a drink, to which I responded haha, yay, thanks, and left. Took me like 3 weeks to realize what a moron I am. I mean, it was probably just for your birthday. Buying someone a 21st birthday drink is just a congratulations as fairly common. I doubt there was any deeper subtext like trying to get into your pants. Made fun of a girl because her brother had a coke addiction. I was super drunk and had a crush on this girl, so I have no idea why I did that. Haunts me to think about today. Deleted. You had a faulty bomb inside you. I stole my sister's boyfriend when I was 16. I'm not proud of it and she's still mad at me. Edit. He was 8 years older than me. Should have added that. I probably would be on edge with you meeting my boyfriend from then on tbh.